Eccentric Engineer here at Train Mountain. We have the pre-production monitor injectors installed on this engine. And we've been using them for about a week. I had them down at LALS, used them for a few days there. I've been running up here at Train Mountain for the narrow gauge meet for 4 days now. And the injectors have been working great. So on this side we have the 6.5 pint per minute cones. And so I wanted to show the way this injector operates. It is a lifting injector, but it works a little differently than the simplex. So we have here in the middle is a primer valve. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. So this valve here primes the injector. It runs through a tube, and there's a little elbow inside of the overflow that actually creates a vacuum completely independently of the cones, which is really handy because no matter how hot the injector gets, it will always prime instantly or within a second. So I'll show you what that looks like. Just crack open the primer, and now we have water flowing through the injector even though the steam valve is shut. So now that the primer's on, we can open the handle, and it only takes 1/4 of a turn. Now we'll shut the primer, and we're injecting water. So you can open and close the primer while the injector is running, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the operation of the injector. So it can be a little confusing because with the standard injectors and the other injectors, as soon as it picks up water and it's injecting, that overflow is immediately dry. But here with the primer valve, well, I've already got water flowing through. With the primer valve, when the injector starts operating, it doesn't immediately run dry. It shoots steam out. And that's because the primer is still on. So once you close the primer, then the overflow runs dry. And we'll simply shut this again. And you hear it shut, and it does not have to be closed very tightly. So on this side I have the 5 pint per minute nozzles. They're it's the same as a standard injector. It's still just a little bit more than a super scale economy. Since these nozzles are smaller, they can lift a little bit more freely, but it's still much easier to just use the primer valve. It's very quick. So we pop this up, and right away water starts coming out of the overflow. So now the injector is running, and the overflow will run dry as soon as we shut off the primer valve. And now we're putting in water. We're at around 115, 120 psi. So we'll try to get this from a good angle. You can see on the engineer side. We got primer, steam, primer off. Off we go. I really like having the 2 injectors on here with the 2 different delivery rates. In operation, I use the 5 pint per minute injector most of the time. If I'm working hard or find that I have a little less water than I'd like, I can use the 6.5 pint injector, and it fills very quickly, but not excessively so. It's just right. And then for the larger engines, the 280s and like the C16s and C21s and K27s, the 6.5 pint will be absolutely perfect. So a few things I want to point out. The primer valve is it has a hex broach on it, so you can take that lock nut off and reposition it into a more convenient location, just depending on where you have it installed in your cab. and how it sits against the boiler. And the steam valve is on a square broach, so that can be moved at 90-degree increments. And both valves have a triple lead thread. So there are 3 starts, and the thread profile is for a 40 pitch thread, but the movement for one turn is actually 3 times of what you would get out of a 40 pitch thread, which is why it only takes a quarter of a turn to actually start the injector. The bottom valve here on the prototype, would be a cam operated poppet valve to control the water flow into the injector body. But it would be far too cumbersome to operate at this size, so I have it as a dummy, and there's an O-ring on there to give it some tension so you can kind of put it wherever you'd like. And I just want to show how quick it is to use the primer valve. So it's very, very efficient. And everything's very close. The way it lays out, it's very easy to do everything.